How are you doing? Como va?
Va bene. And how are
Uh,
you?
we're great. It's great to see your face. I said the last time that you were in, we were doing, there was a special appearance by David Lee Roth, which was one of my favorites.
Yeah, actually, and in light of Eddie dying, that's we should replay that.
Yeah, we should replay that. And it's funny. It's still I see so much and so many tributes to Eddie Van Halen because I think, when you're even when you weren't a guitar player, which I wasn't, but when you look at someone who's like this young living god, which is how he was seen, it's rare that you get someone that is so influential that it spurs on generations of guys who not only want to play like that, they wanted to look like that. I mean, how many videos did you see? Remember the autograph? Remember the guy did the solo and he's trying to smile and he's doing all the stuff on the fretboard. He's doing all the tapping. It's just how it was. I don't know in my lifetime. I mean, there's a lot of great players. Don't get me wrong. But I'm not trying to, was it Joe Satriani or is it, Steve Vai? I'm not talking about these kinds of conversations. I'm saying the overall influence of Eddie Van Halen in our lifetime. I can't think of a more significant guy, especially for someone like yourself who played the guitar and plays the guitar.
Yeah, he definitely he changed things. That's the simplest way to put it. He changed things. After there was before and after him, right? Just like with Hendrix, there was before and after Hendrix, right? So
yes. Yeah. So for you on the Mount Rushmore, is it for the two that go up there first? Is it Hendrix and Eddie Van Halen for you?
Oh, geez, man. You know what?
Because no one's going to
As I
argue
get
those
old,
two.
you know what? I'm not Hendrix to me lately, especially in the last year or two. I've dug more into his recordings and especially some of these live things that are not common, and it's just it's out of this world, really.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Lately, he's the guy for me.
Excellent. Well, lately, as you know, since this pandemic, where things have been, like we never know from day to day. I find that for the average person, it's just that we don't know what's open, we don't know what's closed. So it's the choices that we can make of where we can go, but we don't own those places. When you own those places, I couldn't imagine where the place beside you, which might have a similar business, is open for business, and yet you're not open for business. So explain what it is that we're talking about today, what you own, and what some of these decisions are, because it is very confusing, and that's just for us, and we don't own the places.
Right. So, we own a Pilates studio right here in Port Credit near the Lighthouse. We've been here 20 years, right? What a way to celebrate our 20th anniversary is next month. Oh. And not the way we expected to have an anniversary. And what you're alluding to is that, the most recent example is our dance studios being allowed to open, which, hey, I don't begrudge them. I'm happy for them that they get to open. But what gets confusing is the messaging. Like, when you have Lisa McLeod, who's the Minister of Heritage, Sport, etc., when she says, well, one of the reasons dance studios can open is because, and I'm going to quote her because I want to get it right. She says it's because parents who really want this are completely committed and are going to uphold the safety standards that are required of them. Well, that's just one of her reasons, and it's hard to listen to that, especially because I don't think that's the way the virus works. I don't think it looks at how seriously you're taking it. She had a whole bunch of other examples about spacing, about cohorts. Everyone says pivoting is the word of 2020, but I think cohorts is another word for 2020. And in our studio, everything she listed, we were already doing from August when we were allowed to come back. So yeah, it does become confusing when you're doing the things that they're saying need to be done, and yet you can't be open, right? So it's a tough one.
And see, the thing is, too, in an average dance class, wouldn't there be more people, more clients than an average Pilates class as a whole, Bruno? Don't you think?
Well, I know that, I could have this wrong, so don't quote me on this, but I think for dance studios, they're allowed to have 10 in the class, given that if they have enough space for it, right, and be distance. In our studio, it's a maximum of 6 and the instructor, so that would be 7. They're about 7 feet apart. The instructor is even more than that. Like the clients are 7 feet apart. The instructor
Yeah.
is even further from them. Everyone's wearing a mask. They only use one station. I think part of it is the lack of understanding what happens in a place like ours is you use one station for your entire visit. You go to your machine, you do everything there. So you're not sharing equipment. You just use that one station for the entire time. And then you leave. Well, there's a cleaning procedure, of course, right? And we leave time for that. And then, so we're following all those protocols.
Now, and again, this is, and I really honestly don't know, but when you're a small business owner like that, and obviously you don't rent or lease your space for free. I'm pretty sure that there's probably rent that happens. So over the period of time where you're not able to have clients, and yet I'm sure the landlords, you're still beholden, I guess, to pay rent. How does it work with the government? Are you given any kind of monies that does it pay the rent, or how does that go for people who still have to pay rent?
Well, I have to give props. Our landlord participated in the rent program.
Yeah.
We know of a lot of people. I know friends that their landlord told them right from the get-go, I'm not going to participate in this. We were fortunate. Our landlord, before I even asked him, he said, look, I'm going to be doing this. So that's been great. Now that program has come to an end, and I know that when Ford announced this recent 28-day shutdown, he said there's going to be help coming for the rent. Now, they haven't outlined how that all works yet. This time around, they said it's going straight to the tenants. We just haven't got the particulars, but they said they're going to do it. So I trust that they'll make it retroactive to when the previous program ended. I trust anyway.
Okay, so Bruno, you've talked to some health officials about this. You've had some conversations. Do you feel you're getting anywhere with this? Is it like, piecing away the brick house? Eventually, it's going to fall, or I mean, where does it stand right now as we speak?
Well, when the most recent 28 days occurred, basically every other day I was talking to somebody, and in some cases every day. We actually had considered shooting a video to demonstrate, here's what happens when a client comes to the facility. Well, even before they arrive, here's the procedure, and then once they arrive, et cetera, et cetera. One person told us, yeah, you should do that, put it on social media. And we were actually about to do that. And then last week there was a town hall here, a virtual town hall, of course, here in Port Credit. And we were told, I asked directly, I said, look, if we take all this action, if we provide all this evidence, is anything going to change? And we were told, no, the 28 days is going to stand. It's not going to change. And at this point, we're only about just over a week away from the 28 days being over. So let's hope that when they reevaluate the data, they'll allow us to reopen. But if not, then we go from there, right?
Well, this is what is upsetting. Like, just I think it doesn't matter what community you're from. This is the thing that I worry about the most, is that you have so many people that are dependent, obviously, upon, whether it's the hospitality industry or for yourself, people walking through the door and paying for a service. How much more can the small business owner take of not having that? Like, at some point, to take a knee on this. And this is why it's so scary in this situation. It's why I look at my brothers and sisters out in Alberta. I mean, they were getting pounded before the pandemic happened, and Ottawa wasn't helping out the whole bunch at all for a province that has always helped out everybody else. When they needed that help the most, they didn't get it. For them to go back into a situation where they're not going to be able to do what they need to do, like, I just don't know how we get out of it. Like that. It's not so much about finding, a vaccine and so on. I'm sure at some point, the brainiacs and the big pharma will find a way, and we'll all get that. But in the meantime, that, and it's not even collateral damage, because that sounds really flip, right? That sounds like, oh yeah, well, this happened, that happened. No, these are families. We know you're our friend, And I worry just about if they don't come up with something in the 28 days, just what the hell is our friend supposed to do? That's what I'm afraid of.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because one of the business owners at that town hall said, look, if it's going to be 6 months, just tell us it's going to be 6 months. Don't do this
It's terrible
sporadic thing, where we start and stop and start and stop. And it's a valid point. The mayor of Oakville said something, I guess it was last week or on the weekend, when there was there's been a lot of talk about Halton being shut down as well, going back to stage 2. And I think the mayors of Halton have started to voice their opinion on that.
Yes.
And the mayor of Oakville said it best. He said exactly what I'm thinking. He said you need to target the sources of the community spread before you shut down the businesses, right? So go to, and by the way, the stat you gave earlier, that the CEO, I think you said the CEO of Good Life,
Correct,
looked at it and it was 0.001%. You know, guys, one of the things that I don't think, I mean, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist here, but one of the things that I don't think they're saying is that the reason businesses like ours are being closed, and restaurants, including restaurants in this, is because people are being irresponsible in their social settings. And then where will those people go? Well, they'll go to restaurants, they'll go to gyms, and they'll bring it, right? And I think part of the reason businesses are being shut down is for this reason, right? So instead of going, like the mayor of Oakville is saying, instead of closing the businesses, go to where it's starting,
right,
and stop that. How you do it, I don't know. I don't have that answer.
Because essentially you're being penalized for the recklessness that started in a different place. And you are not the source. The gym isn't the source.
Right.
So,
the stat you gave earlier, which like I said, I wasn't aware of, but intuitively I believed that to be true. So hearing it was a good thing.
Yeah. Well, look, we got our fingers crossed. Certainly our prayers for you, Fratello, and your family to get this thing back on the road, back on the rails. I guess we kind of don't know at this point, but it's the backbone of community. Certainly, when I look at Port Credit, which to me, is the strangeness of Mississauga, because you're in Port Credit, which looks almost nothing like any other part of Mississauga. It's a town. It's almost a resort town. It's a gorgeous, like it is such a beautiful place. And you have all these along the lakeshore, these great little, and some of them who have been there for a long time, but the restaurants, the bakery, of course, the Italian bakery down the road, gotta mention that, they're fantastic. And so you have all these people, and I'm like, this has to survive, because that is Port Credit, and Port Credit is Mississauga. So you can't take out one without taking out the other. So if we're looking at it and saying, honestly, if a dance studio is going to be open, then why would that be closed? Because I think you have to work harder to find ways to keep things open than the easier thing just to snap your fingers and close it all down. Because to me, that's disastrous, and it's a little irresponsible, if I can put it that way.
Yeah, and look, I don't want to sound like I don't appreciate the complexity of the situation. I know it's a tough decision for those making it. But they got to balance that safety and the economic side of it, right? So
that's the job. So I mean, it's a tough job, but that is your job. You got to figure this thing out.
Right.
Bruno, thanks so much for joining us. It's great to see your face. It's really good to see you. And you know what? Hopefully we'll see you shortly again. Not only in person, but even doing this again, that we have some better news, because this is important to us, not only just you, but the community as a whole. So if we're going to do this again, when there's an announcement or whatever, then let's do this again. Let's get an update and let's find out what's going on.
All right. Yeah. Anytime, guys.
Yeah.
And all the best. Thanks for having me on, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Ci vediamo, fratello. Ci vediamo.